Phil's hand twitched over his taser as the man approached him, the eerie silence of the pizzeria making the tension more palpable than ever. Now that the man was in the dim light of the back room, he could tell the man was much older than he originally thought, likely in his mid-50s, and he wore a dirty and wore-down janitor uniform, a badge in the shape of a bear stamped on his chest. Phil chuckled to himself as he raised his hand off his taser, the man leaning on one of the broken arcade machines. "It's been a while since I've seen anyone come to this place. How can I help you today?" the man said calmly, twirling the knob on the arcade. Phil didn't say anything at first, shocked at the man's calmness. While he's been in some strange places before, nothing matched the atmosphere of Freddy's, and this man being completely composed put a taste of fear in his mouth. "My name is Phil Hayes. I'm a private investigator hired to investigate the disappearance of the missing children at Freddy's. If you have any information, I would greatly appreciate it," Phil explained, the man peeking up at the mention of the children. He sighed and leaned a little lower on the arcade machine, his face being somber. "Name's Ralph. I've been the caretaker of Freddy's since it closed down. I remember those poor children like it was yesterday. It was horrible what happened to them. Everyone looked for hours, but nobody ever found them," Ralph said sadly, Phil scribbling all this down in his notepad. Why would a place like this need a caretaker? To his knowledge, Freddy's had been closed for years, and with how destroyed the pizzeria was, it wasn't like anyone was expecting a comeback anytime soon. He pushed the thought to the back of his head and continued scribbling away absent-mindedly. "Do you remember seeing anything suspicious that day? Anything that looked out of place when compared to normal days?" Phil asked, Ralph scratching his graying black hair in thought. "Actually, I do remember seeing something weird that day, a yellow rabbit. Normally, it's just the band performing, but that day I saw a yellow rabbit walking about, playing with the children and customers," Ralph said. Phil pondered for a moment before hitting down the story, his pencil growing ever strained by his sentences. A yellow rabbit wouldn't be too suspicious in a place like this, but maybe that was the point. No one would suspect a performer to be the kidnapper, and no one would bat an eye if the rabbit led them away to a private performance. "Anything else you can think of?" Phil asked as Ralph pulled himself off of the arcade machine, looking down at the old watch wrapped around his wrist. His face suddenly drew grim, like he realized something horrible wrong, and the old man quickly grabbed Phil's shoulder, ushering him back toward the pizzeria's rusty front doors. "Sorry, sir, but the owner doesn't want anyone here past 12 p.m. If you come back tomorrow, I'll be here to talk to you further." Ralph stuttered nervously as he continued to push Phil toward the front doors, the fear in his voice oozing from the man's tone. Phil didn't get a word in as he was almost thrown out of the front doors, Ralph slamming them shut behind him, sending a rattling sound throughout the old dilapidated restaurant. Phil stood in the darkness of the night, staring up at the pizzeria's sign illuminating by the rising moon. What the hell was that about? There was something about this place that spewed mysteries, and he was getting the feeling that he hadn't even scratched the surface yet. If he really wanted to solve this conundrum, he was going to have to delve deeper into this pit of secrets.